What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here? Repping America, the center, and good old-fashioned common sense. You know, today's a great day. Just went and saw Drew Lynch last night, comedian. Had a great time. Had a great night. Feeling pretty good despite all of my circumstances. But best of all, I'm dual wielding. So let's get this thing popping. Wow, that dual wielding is going to backfire on me as I'm going to be swamped in confetti. Awesome. We're going to kick this off, kind of try to frame these episodes. And Bronco here is going to frame this one for us. You know, you see the donkey there stirring in CRT, Hamas, anti-Israel, communism, open borders, BLM, they're Build Back Better. How's that going, by the way? George Soros transforming America. And it all blows up, and the smoke there says universities. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this manipulation of the youth because the media has figured out clickbait. The media has chosen a side. They really have, okay? That's the truth of the matter. There are a lot of times where things are reported and the follow-up is somewhat buried. I saw that today with a trans woman who was killed, I believe, in Georgia. You know, and it turns out that it was a coworker. It was not the hate that people were promoting it to be or insinuating that it was going to be. But anyhow, Biden really has transformed America. The left, the neo-Marxists, they have won major battles recently. You know, we have people as far up the chain as the UN claiming that Palestine should have a seat in the United Nations. They're not even a nation. We have our youth being misled into supporting terrorism, essentially, attacking monuments, attacking artwork, all in the name of something that just isn't going to happen. We're not going to stop oil. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, at least in my lifetime, probably not in your lifetime, probably not even in the people who are protesting's lifetime. We just saw a couple of 80-year-old women attacking the Magna Carta. You know, mindless. This is mindless. We're going to get into that. We'll get into that. But at the end of the day, this sums it up pretty well here from Daily Caller. MSNBC panel can't make sense of new poll showing Americans think Biden is a bigger threat to democracy. They were bewildered when this, indicating independent voters, okay? There's obviously people who have a camp, tribal mentality and all that nonsense. They're not going to say it. People like myself, independents. I'm on the side of, I believe Joe Biden and his entire party and the people, the extremes that they represent, are a bigger threat to democracy than Trump. I don't remember Trump doing anything that made me feel like democracy was being threatened. January 6th, not a great look. I think it was blown a little out of proportion in comparison to some of the other shit that we saw. I am one of those people who supports the idea that something was funky, but whatever, moving on. But 53% of Americans, or independents, believe Biden's second term will weaken America, while 42% believe Trump would further harm democracy. This political analyst from MSNBC, I find it shocking, honestly. I can't make sense of that number. I wish I could. I really wish I could have some great insight, but I don't know if it's an outlier or not, because the other numbers of independents are going in the right direction. Okay, the right direction. It should be going where it is. These are supposed to be scientific results of sorts. And the truth of the matter is that Biden is removing a lot more choices and causing a lot more harm than Trump did. Even if you blame Trump for the states that outlawed abortion. That's it. He wasn't the friendliest guy. He wasn't the nicest guy. He said some idiotic things. But at the end of the day, Biden and the people he represents remove our freedoms. We're going to be told what we can drive in California. We're going to be told how to heat our homes. We're going to be told what we can cook our food in. We're not going to have the choices that as Americans we're entitled to. It's my goddamn choice. If California forcing us to drive electric vehicles would actually change anything, I would be behind it. I would say, look, that's just logical. That's common sense. And that's what we're going to look at, is this lack of common sense that is just so prevalent, so prevalent. You know, this sums up how people feel. Dead worm found in RFK Jr.'s brain, already polling higher than Biden in 11 states. Yeah. And all this guy, without really following the will of the American people, is fundamentally changing how our world operates. I'd really rather have that. And one of the ways they're doing it is through the use of lawfare, as they call it. Using the law against people. And we're starting to see these patterns to this neo-Marxist left-wing Democrat way. 12 women come forward alleging that they were sexually assaulted by whoever Trump's VP pick is. Number 11 there, he sort of, I don't know. Hey, it's 2024. That might be 12 women, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But that's what it's become. And then the people in their tribe don't look at this and go, hey, wait a minute. This isn't what I want. I don't want to cheat. As you can see somewhere up on the board over here, there's a Patriot logo. You know, and every time the Patriots got caught, Deflategate, the Tuck Rule, the training camp spying, Spygate, that kind of shit hurt, because I don't really want my team cheating. Okay, it's one thing to take an advantage. It's one thing to get a ref's ruling, but it's another thing to just cheat, and it's another thing to bring up these trials like they're doing in New York, where statute of limitations have already run out, where these things are being overcharged, where these things have parallels to other cases that were just dropped. That's a problem I see. This is not supposed to be a contest of who can win enough votes. Okay, that's what you would think it is, right? You win them up. No, it's how you earn those votes. Earning votes is what used to be what kept politicians in line. They couldn't be too fucking kooky, right? They couldn't do stupid ass shit. They had to use common sense. And if somebody wasn't showing common sense, they were never going to make it in politics. And this is what we're seeing as a result to that. 1930s Germany versus 2020s America. Legendary Broncos, summing it up so well right here. That's what we're seeing. This is a group, these pro-Palestinian neo-Marxists. They know that the best way to get customers is to give the customer something, right? Just like any other business, right? And what do they give? They give you the ability to no longer be the white oppressor or the entitled rich kid. And it also gives you license to spew hate at whoever's on the opposition. You ever notice how that's how it works? Every time there is an issue that pops up, the left finds somebody to hate and they go after that group. We are living in unprecedented times with crime because we allowed these fuckwads to convince us to defund the police, to devalue the police. And look what that's getting us. An 11-year-old girl was just slashed on the subway. And that dude's going to be out again. And even if he's convicted of anything, it's not. That little girl is going to spend a lifetime being afraid of the world outside. That criminal will be back out in a couple of years at most to do whatever the fuck they want again. And meanwhile, the media just plays along with it. They cover it up, much like they're covering this up. Instead of calling these protesters what they are, terrorists, and showing them promoting hatred of a group, they try to contextualize it. Why? Well, I think Babylon Bee has an answer. Biden strikes deal where Hamas gets to keep American hostages in exchange for 15 votes in Michigan. They're collecting votes. They're buying votes with this kind of stuff. Where do you really stand on this, Joe? How do you really feel? Because we're going to get into a little more of that. I never, I think to be a good person, a great person, whatever you want to label it, you have to be strong enough to admit when your opposition is right, when the battle has been won, when it's been decided. You have to be able to give credit where credit's due. Even if it's Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton slammed anti-Gaza war student protesters, saying that the activists have limited knowledge of the history and politics of the Mideast region. They're ignorant of history. And like she says, they don't know very much at all about the history of the Middle East, or frankly about history in many areas of the world, including their own country. She went on to claim, well, first of all, Bill Clinton did make an offer to the former leader of the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat, that would have given the Palestinians their own state. See, they don't have a state. I don't know what the UN is voting on. Very confusing. I was like, I was doing a magic trick or something there. Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, use the Palestinian hatred of the Jews to stay in power. If Palestine was its own state and it fell apart, then the Palestinian Authority, aka Hamas, would have to take responsibility. They just keep blaming Israel. That's how they stay in power. Much like here, both sides just blame each other for the problems, right? We see it every day. But Hillary Clinton, flat out ignorant, called them ignorant. And one of the places they're ignorant is this one brought to you by the Bee. Uyghur slaves struggling to keep up with demand for Palestinian headscarves. Like I've said many times before, where were these activists on October 6th? Where were these activists when Hamas was running Gaza? Hamas was running Gaza. Gaza did not have Israeli troops in there, okay? Nobody was there for them then, while Hamas was raping and pillaging the country. No. It wasn't until you could make them hate the Jews. Now, why are the activists not protesting for the Uyghur slaves? Why are people at Princeton or Columbia or wherever else not standing up for the Uyghur slaves? Because they don't want to hate the Chinese. Because that could get complicated. Because that's not as easy to, it's much easier to identify somebody wearing a yarmulke than it is, somebody from an Asian nation. Is that what it is? Because here you go. These are slaves being held by China. And nobody's saying dick about it, okay? I'm just going to move on. People blocking students from college based on race, probably on the right side of history again. Yeah, the B. That's sardonic as fuck right there. And that is the truth. They are harassing Jewish students. Are Jewish students studying at Columbia University responsible for any of this? No. Hamas is responsible for this. Gaza was being left alone. There were a few problems here and there, but nothing major. Gaza was being ruled by Hamas, who was elected by the Palestinians, the Gazians. It's not that kid's fault. But, just like a good neo-Marxist, you have to hate somebody. You have to be able to admit violence onto a specific person or group. Because that's how you get these people excited. There's no excitement in a letter writing campaign. No. We're going to go in. We're going to disable the elevators. We're going to fill the stairwells with zip-tied chairs. And this is all stuff that they did at Columbia, as reported by the janitorial staff, who were terrorized by these people, did not know what was going to happen. This was violence. This was organizers using young people's rage to try to burn down the system. So, despite Biden's best efforts, Israeli tanks encircle eastern half of Rafah. What Biden did, if you don't know, I'm going to try to break this down nice and quick here. So Biden said he's not going to send some smart bombs to Israel if they went into Rafah. So he's not sending the smart bombs. Now, Israel wasn't necessarily going to use smart bombs or bombs going into Rafah, okay? But Biden says, oh, these bombs have killed children, because he's trying to placate those extremists over there who are holding Columbia University hostage, or were holding Columbia University hostage. But again, this is the cynical nature of these politicians. Now, if Israel wants to use bombs, they'll use the bombs they have, which are not guided. They're not guided, so goodness knows where they're going to land. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. No. And why? Why again? Why are we even sticking our fucking opinion into this? Israel pulls out of Gaza. Hamas builds up. Hamas waits until we have a weak U.S. president, a weak mental fortitude worldwide, and then they go in and they literally rape and murder and commit genocide on the people of Israel. Young people minding their business at a festival. Families sitting down to a meal. Butchered in the most horrific ways I have ever heard about. People, you know what? I don't want to go down there. Okay? I'm not going to bring that up, but suffice it to say, Israel has every right to do what they are doing, and we should keep our fucking noses out of it. And so should the UN. Sure, monitor the situation, okay? If Israel's doing something wrong, fine, call them to task. But they're not. Netanyahu said on Thursday, Israel will fight with our fingernails. In a U.S. television interview, he said he hoped Israel would overcome its disagreements with President Biden. The worst part about this is Biden doesn't give a shit what happens in Rafah. He's doing this for votes. If a politician was forced to do the right thing, the thing that common sense dictated, and it cost them votes, that would be George Bush Sr. He did what he had to do, and it cost him the election. We can't have our politicians kowtowing to the extremes anymore, because this is ridiculous. And then before it gets brought up, because I'm sure it has been, I haven't seen it, but I know it's going to start brought up. Hamas said that they had agreed at the start of this week to a proposed ceasefire submitted by Qatari and Egyptian mediators that had previously been accepted by Israel. Israel said the Hamas proposal contained elements it cannot accept. Why doesn't Reuters put in why? Because Hamas was going to trade the bodies of hostages, the dead, for living prisoners who are just going to be wrapped back into the fold and continue the fight. And if you want to know what side to be on, just know that Greta Thunberg is on the side of Palestine. These protests should be everywhere. You know, she's starting to look like Michael Moore. She makes less sense than Michael Moore and is really starting to look like Michael Moore, which for a 20-something-year-old girl is not a good thing. But this dingbat's out there again, at Malmo, protesting and speaking to reporters. Thunberg said these protests should be everywhere. Once again, young people are showing the world how to react like a bunch of spoiled, stupid babies. You see now that this is a global effort on the neo-Marxist. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of people who think I say neo-Marxist or other people say neo-Marxist as some sort of dog whistle or some bullshit. That's what they are. New, Marxist, that's what they are. Their core belief is to overturn the entire system and rebuild it in their image. These people believe that if we did away with laws, we would do away with crime. That's how fucking stupid they are. No, another stupid ass. I just want to bring this up because Ireland's really been letting me down lately. There's a singer there called Bambi Thug, and he or she or whatever wanted to come out during Eurovision, which is a song contest that covers Europe, whatever. Had a painted script that said ceasefire and freedom. It's very important for me, he said, or they said. Okay, I guess so they, because I'm pro-justice and pro-peace. Well, first of all, the justice part is what Israel's getting right now. The peace is what Hamas shattered. And as far as freedom, they had their freedom. It's Hamas. It is Hamas that dragged them in. But look how the minions come out of the woodworks to keep spreading that message that Palestine did nothing wrong. Israel is wrong. One reason, my guess is because the typical Israeli is probably lighter skinned, closer to the oppressor of the white man. Hi, I'm your oppressor. That's the kind of idiotic shit that they do. And when they're not busy just being harebrained, they're being manipulative. Gavin Newsom claims record tourism, but it's actually down 14%. He bragged about $150 billion in tourism, unprecedented in our state's history. But when you adjust it for inflation, which again is what you really need to do to compare things, adjust them out so that there's not these wild variables. Things are more expensive now, so obviously more money spent. Tourism's down 14%. Too damn expensive. People don't want to come here. They don't want to support this state. I could see that. I could see that across the country. People no longer wanting to go to Disneyland, no longer wanting to give money to California. I myself will not buy things in cities that I don't like. Now, I know that sounds weird, but a lot of my jobs have involved dealing with people in, city government to some degree, inspectors, things like that. Driving through them, servicing buildings there, blah, 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 blah. I've seen a lot of different cities, and there are some that I just don't like. Okay? I don't spend money there so that I don't give sales tax to them. Same thing. And one of the reasons why I'm so frustrated, especially with the Democrats, being that I live in California, I could see that, but the Homeless Council can't account for $20 billion. $24 billion over 5 years to fund 30 programs. And they don't know where the money went? And since spending all this money, homelessness has gone up 53%. We have 181,000 people living on the streets. That's the population of decent-sized cities. But we haven't seen any improvement. And this is a Democrat here speaking. A Democrat. Democrat Assemblyman Phil Ting. You come to a budget committee and there's no numbers. How many people have we helped? How many people are off the streets? Because that's what the people want to know. You have spent all of this money enriching the people who run these programs. But what do they come back with? They're dealing with data quality issues. So metrics are not yet available for how more than $20 billion was spent since the council's inception. We're working expeditiously. Executive Officer Megan Marshall and another Megan here. She told lawmakers in the committee the state didn't previously require them to track its progress on spending or the viability of its programs, adding, it's not something to be proud of. No, it's not. It's been a failure. It's been a waste of money. And the worst part about it, at least from my viewpoint, is as part of these homeless things, They don't want the police just arresting people for what they could be arrested for. They don't want to enforce laws. So we are just going to be inundated by more of this. And speaking of inundated, illegal immigrants in Denver demand culturally appropriate food, free lawyers at Tent City. They set up a tent city. Denver said, we're going to move you into a shelter. They said, we're not going to go unless we get culturally fresh, relevant, see right there, fresh, culturally relevant ingredients that would allow them to prepare their own meals. You're not getting free food, are you? Additionally, they seek assistance with employment, complimentary legal advice for immigration proceedings, and guarantees against family separation or mistreatment by shelter staff. Other wishes, unlimited shower access, medical professional visits, and transportation for all children to and from school. Or they're going to stay in their tent city. We could just arrest these people and send them out of the country. We could do that. They are here illegally. I mean, and they're making demands. And before I leave, I just want to sum this one up. I don't know, man. It's all spinning up in here. Earth to be pounded by rare solar storm that could wipe out internet. So there's going to be some solar storms. Could affect Earth's power supplies and knock out the internet. This is why some of us who don't believe in climate change hysteria don't believe in it. The sun can just F us up. It just can. The unusual solar storm may disrupt electronic devices like GPS and power grids over the 2 hours it takes to reach its peak strength. After that, it may continue at reduced strength on Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully by the time I post this, the internet's just not gone. But it serves as a reminder. We are at the mercy of the universe. We are at the mercy of the earth. And we just need to accept that. Clean up our act where we can, but let's not bankrupt the system. Let's not ruin everything that we have built. Let's not go too mental with all of this. But step one to not doing those things would be to stop monetizing it. The government has wasted billions and billions and billions on green energy shit. That's just not working. It works in small doses. Hey, great. California went 9 hours on renewables. Great first step. But to think that in just a few short years, we're going to be all electric and that's going to work, it ain't going to work. It's common sense. And common sense dictates a slow, methodical pace where the market dictates the change. This hysteria that they are stirring up is damaging the youth of America. And I don't think that that's a Republican thing. I think it's the Democrats. I'm not saying that the Republicans don't have some decisions out there and some preconceived ideas that aren't harming children. I'm just saying you take the totals for both. And I think right now, and I sort of know by looking at the evidence, that the far left is destroying a lot of children. They are making it out like there is no future unless there is a revolution and just a complete destruction. The thing is the politicians who support that don't want that. They're cynical. Gavin Newsom knew that giving fast food workers minimum wage of $20 was going to cost people jobs. But he was like, that's what they want. Here you go. Vote for me. All the while knowing what was going to happen. And we're starting to see trickles of it right now. Reduced hours. They did a study here in North Hollywood where somewhere in the neighborhood of 33% of fast food workers lost their jobs. An additional 17% saw reduced hours. And all the ones that remained had to struggle with an overstaffed restaurant. And now people pay more. The owners make less. Eventually, it's going to hit all of our industries. we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands because we didn't see the slippery slope. I saw the slippery slope. I knew what was going to happen. And I'm just some fucking idiot. Look at me. How the fuck do I know this? And the governor doesn't. Because he does. And they're cynical. And they don't care. They want the money. It's all about the money. You know, for me, it's all about America and Americans. And the people who work and strive to achieve more in their lives. That's who I back. I wish our politicians could. I don't know if we'll ever get back to it. I certainly hope they can. Anyhow, Kid Copious, Purple State Party, and so are you. Take real good care of your health, you know, especially that mental health. Kiss your mom this Mother's Day. Drink your fluids. Don't be stupid. And when it just gets to be too much, dance it out. Staying alive, staying alive.